Welcome back to the channel. How's it going? I'm Nomad. And today we're going to be talking about if the plug got pulled right here, right now, how would you be? How would your mag be? Do you have things in place? Do you have preps? What do you got? If it all just came crashing down and just all the power, all the communications, everything just completely cut, would you be able to get fresh water from the ground? Most people don't know that the majority of generators, run on 120 volt, okay? And the majority of well pumps, right? Now here, I'll show you what a well pump is, because not a lot of people really know what these are, and it's actually kind of crazy. So that's a well pump, right there. Okay, and the majority of people that actually have these, all right, have ones that are 240 volt. What that means is the majority of people in this country that have a well, that think it's their ace in the sleeve, aren't going to be able to power it. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to figure out ways later on down the road, but it's not like I don't think that they're going to eventually come up with a solution for that. But I think a lot of people don't realize that most generators aren't going to power their well pump. Do you have ways to power things for like devices that you need? Are there people on breathing machines? That was a serious concern for me and my family, because my father, before he passed, was on a breathing machine of some kind, right? So he needed power to survive, and that made, strategizing as far as like what we were gonna do if that situation was to ever come was always something that I was planning for, at least mentally, about how I was gonna try and navigate around that situation if or when we actually did get to an apocalyptic situation of some kind. Hell, I mean, even in 2008, the state of New Hampshire lost power for 11 straight days during an ice storm in the middle of winter. And the entire state was shut down. Like, that's pretty survival mode right there. And I gotta say, it was like an extended vacation for most people. I think in other states, like the state that we came from, Massachusetts, if the power went out for 11 days, I think a lot of people would, probably do okay, but you'd get inside the 495 ring and like in inner city Boston, suburbs and stuff like that, and I think people would really start struggling. For a lot of people, the apocalypse, the shit hits the fan is already going on. You look all over the world right now, and the world's kind of already ending. And if where you are is holding it together right now, then that you just count yourself lucky, right? Just be thankful that where you are is still holding it together right now. I bet if you were in certain parts of the Middle East or Europe even, is getting pretty bad. It's not like terribly bad. I have a buddy that's from the UK, and he said it's it's not as bad as they're making it look on the internet, I guess you could say, right? And how much food do you have, right? If everything was to go to shit right now and you had to live off of whatever your preparations or your stockpiles or whatever you call them, right? Like, you know, call it your pantry and it's just really full. Whatever you want to call it, right? Or whatever you have to call it because, you know, you don't want your family to ostracize you for being a prepper. Or even like the internet, you know, like everybody's so judgmental out there and has an opinion about everything nowadays, right? Including myself, right? I'm definitely not innocent in that department at all whatsoever. I'll give you an opinion on every single fucking thing, even if I barely know anything about it. I'll still give you an opinion. I'll tell you it's not a very well educated or founded in any kind of training or anything like that, but you got to be careful out there. There's a lot of people that, you know, do a lot of talking and don't really kind of know, you know, outside of their own experiences, right? You know, what is or isn't possible. You know, some people, the lone wolf living off the backcountry is a ridiculous fantasy. Yeah, for some people it is. Unless you're like a seasoned backpacker that knows how to live in the backcountry and can live off of minimal food, knows how to filter water without the need of chemicals or fancy filters or anything like that, right? If you know how to do those things, you can live in the backcountry by yourself for weeks at a time if you need to. So it's not a ridiculous fantasy. You see? Like, would it be a ridiculous fantasy if you wanted to do that with like a family that was completely untrained to live in those kinds of conditions? Yeah, that would be stupid. Like, why would you want to do that, right? But if you do things like go on family camping trips often and during all seasons of the year, right? Not just when it's like nice out. You go backpacking during the winter and you camp out when the conditions are the worst, or during the fall when conditions are usually the wettest and cold. So your hypothermia becomes a constant threat that you're constantly like making sure that you're staying ahead of the hypothermia. You're keeping yourself dry. You're making sure your core layers are staying warm and dry. You know what I mean? You're shedding properly as you're heating up and cooling, and you're putting layers back on again. Things like that. Unless you actually get out there and do the things, right? It's gonna seem like fantasy to you. If you don't know how to survive on your own in the backcountry, like that's like one of my skill sets. So it's just like ridiculous to me when I see a bunch of fucking chompers going like this and they have like no actual like experience and they're saying, oh, well, that's fantasy. It's like, well, what about like the Dave Canterburys out there? You know what I'm saying? What about the people that actually know what they're doing? It's not fantasy to them. And there's lots of skilled people out there. There's like an entire movement of nomadic people that are living in RVs using state land to live off of right now. Just traveling around from state to state weeks at a time. How they're I mean, they must have sold like their entire friggin', you know, they must be all in on this, you know, nomadic adventure of theirs. But, you know, they're young and they can make stupid financial decisions like we all did. But this, like, mentality that, you know, living in the backcountry or whatever is a stupid idea. I've been seeing it going around a lot in the prepper community, and I laugh at it, right? Because like if everything was to go to shit, where I live would literally turn into living in the backcountry, right? Like this is like my property is like what most people would consider to be a bug out location. You know what I mean? And it's just silly to me that because like if things were to go bad, this property would literally turn into the backcountry. Like, yeah, I live on a major state road, but that state road just happens to cut through the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean? And I just happen to live on it, and a lot of people come through it because I live close to a tourist area. And for some reason, the fucking maps are telling people to come this way now, even though the main road would be way faster. I don't know why they're telling people to come this way, but it is what it is. They're almost like saying that by default, if like the world was to go tits up, like, yeah, I'm not living out in the middle of the woods in a fucking campsite. Yeah, because I got a fucking head start on the game on purpose. Like, I knew we were barreling for the cliff in a big stampede, and nobody wants to listen to the one saying, hey, there's a cliff coming. And I've been trying to do that for 20 years now. But the stampede just kept charging and charging. So what can you do? What can you do? You go along to get along. Sorry, girls. Hey, buddy boy. Go ahead. Go ahead. Squirrely! Every morning I just like to look over everybody's combs and just kind of, the morning's probably like the best time to spot anything that might be wrong with your flock, because if they're struggling, it's going to be in the morning or it's going to be before bed, and that's like the best time to get ahead of something. But yeah, everybody's looking good this morning. Now location's another huge thing, right? Hold on. Look at these fucking mohawks, dude. Look at the mohawks on these things. So cute. Right? If you could have a great spot, but if it's in the middle of some suburban or downtown location, right, you're gonna have volume of people potentially being a threat to you, your supplies, and you know, your group, your family, your children. So trying to get to a location that is more suitable for survival, like a rural area. And this is the black copper morans. We're still unsure if this one's gonna turn to a rooster yet or not. It's looking iffy. Even where I am, right? I live on an outlier, but it's an outlier to a very small mountain town. But it's a highly populated mountain town, but it's mostly tourist. So the influx that causes the moments of high population or from tourist density So if, you know, that's another thing that is a concern for me and my mag, is when things do get crazy, that we're going to have a high influx of people from out of state that are going to be naturally drawn to this area. They're going to want to come back to here because they feel that this is like the place where they're going to hold out, and I can't blame them. This is the location that I chose based on all the metrics that go into surviving an apocalypse. This location has 6 months out of the year. It has weather conditions that most people can't even bear to be in, let alone try and survive or maintain any kind of aggressive posture or presence. Outside of that, there's tons of wild animals to contend and deal with, ranging from cougars to black bear to coyotes, bobcats, lynx, fisher cats, weasels, raccoons. I mean, you name it, and we pretty much got it. And that's what's forced me to upgrade the chicken coop where we raise all of these beautiful hens. This is another black copper Moran. And so all the predators have forced me to put them in a coop that literally is predator proof. This was definitely not how I intended to use it, but I think it's going to be a valuable asset moving forward, keeping, what community I'm able to establish alive. Because food at the end of the day is not really it's a concern, but I think most people don't realize how much they've been conditioned to eat as much as they have. And this is a lot of the reasons why people are suffering from crippling health problems and whatnot, is because they are following nutritionists and listening to their doctors as far as what they should be doing with their health. And that's why a lot of people are just rotting away right now. You can listen to me if you want or not. I'm definitely no doctor, but I'll tell you what, I definitely see a lot of people around me that are listening to doctors and not doing so well. And they've lived a much cleaner and healthier, quote unquote, life than I have, that's for sure. Because, I abused drugs and alcohol right up to the right old age of about 40 years old. I think, just before 40, I decided to give all that up. And it's been some years now. I don't even know. I don't know. I stopped keeping track of time too. I don't celebrate birthdays anymore, none of that. I'm in my mid-40s, I think, somewhere in there. People's health are falling to pieces. People that should be perfectly healthy are getting cancers and all kinds of other problems with them that they shouldn't be. And this is all part of surviving this world that we live in, right? Most people don't know that, we're already in the end of times right now, quote unquote, right? Well, people want to call it that. Apocalypse just means the start of something new. It doesn't mean the end of days. It means the start of something new, like turning a new leaf, starting a new era, right? That's what an apocalypse is. That's why the English language is so deadly, is because most of it has the ruling class's dark magic tied into it. It's all spell casting and inversions of true meanings and stuff like that. circling back to the water situation. Well, what have I done to mitigate that? Well, what I've done is I have an inverter that jumps up the 120 volt to 240 volt. And it basically works like a hub station. It's got a female end going in one side and it's got a male end coming out the other. And then all I gotta do is find where the lead running from my panel to my water pump is, splice that there, and then I just put a male end on that, and then I take a female end and then I put that on the lead end. Right, so the lead end is running from the cable box, or your breaker box, right? And it plugs into your pump. You're gonna splice it here. You're gonna put a female end on this end of the splice. You're gonna put a male end on this end of the splice. That way, if you get power back to your panel again, you can just plug those back in, and it's gonna work just like it does normally without having a splice in the line. But you lose your grid. You hook your generator up to the inverter, and then you hook the inverter up to your well pump. You run your generator. Hell, I can even jump up my Opus to power my water pump now. So things like that, and it's all the inverter was like 500 bones, so not that bad. I'll even leave a link to it down below for you, for anybody that's actually made it this far and really wants to take surviving what's to come serious. Food is such a wild card when it comes to survival, because the need and the want, the hunger is an addiction, right? It's the addictive part of the conditioning from mainstream society. People's desire to eat 3 times a day has nothing to do with our body needing to eat 3 times a day for energy or anything like that. So there's a doctor, Barbara O'Neill, and she was calculating that it's more in the range of like 3 meals a week were what our bodies were actually wired for, and not 3 meals a day. And so our bodies are kind of eating like 5 to 7 times as much as they should be, which is why we are so bloated and filled with, parasites and other junks and things like that, is because we give all of these things the conditions to live within us. So one thing I would say that has me more concerned than anything would be, how do we feed the livestock, right? Like, because I definitely don't have enough, chicken feed to survive the end of times. And to be honest, if you knew how much chickens actually eat, you'd realize that there's no such thing. I would obviously need to free range my chickens at that point and take the risk, and then give them this space here as like their home base to come back to if they were to feel threatened by predators or anything like that, right? And I would need to let them kind of feed off of nature to supplement most of the feed for them. Actually, probably be almost all of it, because I'm sure we'd run out of this grain feed or whatever this is made from in no time. And the more birds you have, obviously, the more feed you need. So do you have the weapons and the skills and the training to to defend your bug out location, your bunker, your house in the hills, whatever, right? Like, do you have that? Do you think you're gonna be able to successfully defend what you have if somebody was to come in with hostile intent to take over your bug out location or what you had and call it theirs, right? Or are you just gonna go, oh, well, when the time comes, it'll come to me then. You know, we'll figure out how to make this this gun work when the time comes, right? I gotta do something about this water bowl. They keep knocking it over during the day. I'm gonna maybe try and put it over here. So another reason these chickens are important is they provide the necessary components in the building blocks to keep producing more produce and food for everybody. So this is just I keep up with it daily now because I feel when you keep up with this mess on a daily basis, everything just, not only does it suck if you wait a month like some people do. Some people will say wait a month and then come in and do a big cleanup. Nah. If you stay on it every day and you turn it, these wood pellets start turning into like sawdust, and then they start turning into dirt, and eventually that becomes some of the best compost that you can have. So this little hoe that I bought from Tractor Supply, and it was funny, I was talking to my wife when I was doing this the other morning, and I was like, you know, this little hoe is one of the best investments I ever made in life. And she's like, oh, thanks, babe. Like talking about herself. And I was like, man, it was moments like that that made me realize that I ended up with the right one, you know? Yeah, anyhow. So I do this every day now, and this was wood pellets about a month ago, right? And you can see the breakdown happening. They've been in here for about a month, and this is the condition of everything. It's been pretty friggin' nice, right? Like when I had them cooped up inside that little house, man, the air quality was garbage. And that was definitely the case, right? Like I lost 2 to water belly, and water belly is basically like the main cause of water belly is bad air quality in the coop. Their livers fail them, and their little hearts give out, and then their bodies start filling up with water because they can't really process it anymore. And you can prolong it by using surgical needles to drain the liquid, and but yeah, eventually they succumb to it eventually, right? You can't drain liver failure and heart failure, unfortunately. All tough lessons that I'm learning. I'll tell you, raising livestock is definitely not for everybody, especially if you have attachment issues or anything like that. Like, if you get overly attached to things like pets and stuff like that, I would not recommend raising livestock until you kind of got past that a little bit, because you're definitely going to be losing a lot of your little feathered friends. In the process, we've lost 8 in total. This is my hen that has survived the bear attack. You can see where she's missing the feathers, and she's still a bit smaller than the rest, but she gets free range time and she gets other benefits like scrambled eggs and things like that on a semi-regular basis that the others don't. So, but I'd like to thank you guys for coming out to my little rant today, as far as fighting back against the naysayers of the prepping and not survival community, but the prepping community that are trying to paint this, bugging out as fantasy, or surviving solo being fantasy, because it's definitely something people train for and are capable of, right? So, like, is it something for the world at large to become proficient at survival? I mean, it can't hurt, right? Like, it can't hurt to learn basic survival and go from there, right? And then you might realize, like, oh crap, I actually like being in the backcountry. And then you might go for like an overnight, and then you're like, oh well, hey, let's take a week trip, right? And then the next thing you know, you are now a survival enthusiast and you like to live off the land, and now that isn't such a fantasy anymore. With that said, I gotta get this hen back inside, because I don't know if she's laid an egg yet or not. I just wanted to say good morning to her and goodbye to you guys. So we will see you next time here on the Nomad channel. Later, everyone.